This is a special episode we're having with very fine people here from the community of Hobbs. My name is Ricardo Ale. For everyone that doesn't know me, we're gonna go around and we're gonna introduce ourselves. We have Jesse here as well.
Yeah, the usual suspects here. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Noel Marquez. I am from Artesia, New Mexico. I'm a community artist, and I also, myself and my associate here, Rose, we're members of the Alliance for Environmental Strategies, and we're a community group trying to bring education to our people.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Lorraine Villegas from Hobbs, lifelong resident and also a concerned citizen. And since I've expressed concern regarding this new facility, I'm considered a fearmonger, which I guess the title high level radioactive waste is kind of concerning within itself. So I guess if you want to call me that, then I guess I'll take that role. But yeah, it is scary. And if I'm expressing concern for the environment that I have to live in and my family, the people that I love have to live in, then if that's considered a fearmonger, then I guess I'll be fine with it.
Yeah. Works for us.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm Rose Gardner. I am with the Alliance for Environmental Strategies. I live in Eunice, and I own a flower shop in Eunice. And we're here to discuss nuclear waste storage. So it's an important topic. And I think next we'd like to I guess have Leona introduced.
Yeah, we have.
Phillip needs to introduce himself.
I'm Phillip Valdez. I'm a local resident here in Hobbs, born and raised. Also just a concerned citizen. You know, I don't want this stuff here affecting the place where I live and my family lives.
Yeah, I don't think none of us do.
You know, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Awesome.
Just to bring awareness.
Awesome. And here on the phone, we have a very special person from Albuquerque. Would you like to introduce her?
Will they hear her if she talks?
Yeah, they could hear her.
Go ahead, Leona.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Yeah, we are. We're live.
You're on.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Leona Morgan, and I am Diné, or as the colonizer and the government today calls us, Navajo. I am from the northwestern part of New Mexico, and I currently live in Albuquerque. I work with the Nuclear Issues Study Group and also a couple of other projects dealing with uranium mining and radiation contamination from the nuclear fuel chain. Thanks.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what that is, because I'm to be honest, I'm not sure what that is, and I know there's a lot of people that don't know what that is. So could you tell us a little bit about what you specialize in?
Sure. I'm a community organizer and activist. I do a lot of popular education about various aspects of the nuclear fuel chain as it affects indigenous people. So I do a lot of work dealing with indigenous rights, and then also education to folks that don't know about the nuclear fuel chain, and also organizing with a community group here in Albuquerque to fight this proposed nuclear waste dump called Holtec International. When we talk about nuclear colonialism, what we're talking about is it has to do with the efforts of a hegemonic government. So a government, an oppressive force that is using its power to suppress the rights of people when, like, for example, when we talk about uranium mining, 75% of uranium mining worldwide occurs on indigenous lands. And so in Australia, there's a lot of threats of uranium mining and nuclear waste dumping, and the same in northern Canada. And I've worked with a lot of people who are either indigenous community folks or people working with indigenous people, and the story is the same for most indigenous communities, that their land was stolen, their resources were exploited, they were given little input on these projects, and here in New Mexico, a lot of that happened to fuel the Cold War. So the uranium boom was really for imperialist endeavors by the United States to make weapons. And the uranium boom, it occurred before the National Environmental Policy Act was passed. So there was no law saying that these companies had to clean up the waste. So in New Mexico, we have hundreds of abandoned uranium mines, and since there was no regulations or laws about this, they're just sitting there, not cleaned up, contaminating the environment, which leads to health problems for local communities. And so that's, different cancers, birth defects, things like that. So this nuclear colonialism has to deal with the exploitation of resources and by an oppressive force. And so I talk a lot about uranium mining, but I think it also applies to us when we are dealing with other parts of the nuclear fuel chain. So uranium mining being the fuel for nuclear power, either electricity or weapons, is at the front end. And then there's uranium milling, processing, enrichment, which Rose knows a lot about and you guys have been dealing with down there. And then there's fuel fabrication, and then leading into either weapons development, like at Los Alamos or Sandia National Labs. And then we have, a couple thousand nuclear weapons stored here in Albuquerque at Kirtland Air Force Base. The thing is, in New Mexico, we do not have a commercial scale nuclear power plant. We have some experimental reactors, which are not online to create power, but we do have a lot of research in this state, and so that's why we call it our nuclear New Mexico. So we have almost every step of the fuel chain except for these nuclear reactors, but now we're dealing with proposals to bring the waste here to Holtec, and then also close by at the waste control specialist site on the Texas side of the state line. But I know tonight we're focusing on Holtec, and so whenever we talk about this issue of this proposed consolidated interim storage, I like to refer to it, and a lot of us up here in Albuquerque, we're very aware of this as an environmental racism issue, because we feel that we're being targeted and that this is not, this is unjust, and we need to fight it. So Holtec is proposing to bring in 100,000 tons of high-level radioactive waste, also called spent fuel, from these nuclear reactors. And this waste is the most radioactive out of all the waste produced in every step of the nuclear fuel chain. So this is the most dangerous to transport and then to store. But the name of this application, what they're calling it is CIS, or Consolidated Interim Storage, which means it's supposed to be temporary, but the application is for 100 years to expand up to 120 years. So we know that's a long time to be a temporary site. And right now, they're saying they're just going to hold it. The government is allowing this because the government is supposed to come up with a permanent solution. There's different arguments about where the waste should go. Some people say a permanent repository. Some people advocate for what we call HOF, or hardened on-site storage, meaning the waste should stay at the sites where it was produced. Either way, there's no permanent place to put it, and so we're going to be stuck with it if we don't stop it. And so that's just a little bit about the nuclear fuel chain, how our rights are being suppressed, and some of the impacts we're looking at is it could possibly become a permanent waste site. So it's really important for everyone listening to learn about Holtec International's proposal and then to comment. The application was accepted by the NRC on February 28th, and a little bit after that they announced an open scoping period, which means NRC will consider this application, and the NRC needs to do what's called an environmental impact statement. So an environmental impact statement, or EIS, start first with a draft EIS. And in order for the public to put in things that they need to consider, we need to send them comments during the scoping period. So the scoping period is a time when everybody can comment to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to tell them these are the things that need to be studied in the EIS. So the impacts from the oil and gas, if there's sinkholes, they need to include the transport. They need to include what are the impacts to the local plants and the local wildlife. So we have a chance now to tell the NRC these are the things that need to be in the draft EIS. But at the same time, we can tell them that we don't want it. So the deadline is May 29th to send comments in, and I'm sure the others will tell you there's websites set up where you can get this information online, and there's also going to be some meetings down there starting on April 30th, May 1st, and May 3rd. But there's also a meeting if people can't make it, which is going to be a webinar on April 25th in Rockville, Maryland, which is where the NRC has a headquarters. So right away, we can see that this is not a fair process because the first meeting for scoping is going to be all the way across the country, which none of us will be able to attend. And then they only did 2 scoping meetings here. So we are asking that they do 3 full scoping meetings in New Mexico. And I know the other guests can tell you more about that. But so that's just a summary of what's going on. And all of us in Albuquerque fighting this are working with Rose and Noel and Lorraine, and we support what the local folks want. And we'll do everything we can to help to stop this. And just as a Native person, as an Indigenous person, this is also a concern to me because the transport will go through the Navajo Nation. The rail lines will go right through our res, and our people, we have a law against uranium mining and radioactive transport. However, our laws are superseded by the federal government. So then again, there's another example of a government like the United States using its imperialist power to suppress our people by not honoring our laws. So the Navajo Nation law against radioactive transport is not respected here. And so we're concerned about any accidents, not just for the people, the health, and all of that, but our sacred places. So it's not just for us as Indigenous people to worry about the land and the sacred places, but it's everybody's concern when it comes to transport because it's going to be from every single power plant all across the country, which means everyone's going to be impacted if there's going to be an accident. And there will be an accident because there's a study done that says there will be 1 accident for every 10,000 shipments. And we're looking at a lot of shipments coming in over the course of 20 years. So possibly 10,000 rail cars full of this stuff. And we don't know what the transport routes will be until this thing gets started. So the train companies decide what routes will be taken. So it's going to be really hard for us to know when radioactive waste might be coming through. And the thing about this is there are radioactive releases when the transport happens. So it's a very dangerous thing for us in New Mexico to be holding this stuff, but it's also a national threat anywhere the waste might be transported.
That's a lot of stuff to cover. That's pretty intense how people like us didn't really hear about that stuff. We were searching for it everywhere and it wasn't really available, and how you're saying that there's not much regulations to this and that they're taking people out of their homes and out of their territories. That sounds like a lot of questions were coming up as you were speaking. So we're gonna talk about each question individually. We're gonna go to a quick break, and we're gonna be back, and we're gonna start covering all these small questions that were coming up as she was talking. So we're gonna be right back. Okay, thank you.
No te lo puedes perder. Viernes 6 de julio, Tidings Auditorium en Hobbs, Nuevo México. Impacto Jag Promotions te invita. Rojo en concierto. T-Bone.
Yo te adoraré,
Nati Blanco y el pastor Yoyito.
Es que cada quien se mete a unas deudas. Llega el señor el otro día a pagar la cuna del bebé y dice, buenas, vengo a pagar la cuna del bebé. Ah, muy bien, ¿usted es el papá? No, yo era el bebé.
Te esperamos este viernes 6 de julio en el Tidings Auditorium de Hobbs, Nuevo México. Sigan escuchando Ricas Platicas.
Leona, would you mind just talking about that study that you were discussing, I believe in Santa Fe, about the on the newborn babies to the 2-year-olds?
Well, yeah, I can. Are you guys recording now or still on break?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay. So right now, there's not a lot of studies being done for the all the stuff I'm talking about. There's very little health studies that have been conducted on the impact to long-term exposure to low-level radiation from uranium mines. So there is a study that's been done, that's being done. It's happening now out of Albuquerque, out of UNM. It's called the Navajo Birth Cohort Study, and what they are doing is following women who are pregnant and then also their child into 2 years of life. And what they found is that the women that have been drinking maybe contaminated water or living close to these sites and getting a dose over a long-term amount of time, their babies are also suffering the impacts, which one of the findings is that there's uranium in the baby's urine. So this is one of the only studies that is being done on this particular issue, but there has been known impacts, birth defects to children from, the past mining in different places, like on Navajo, there in Shiprock, there was a high percentage back when there was mining and milling. There was a lot of contamination there, and so the people see these issues, but there hasn't been really strong studies. So it's easy for companies and the government to say, "Oh, it doesn't impact the human health, or it doesn't cause any damage." But what Noel was saying, the measurement that is for what's allowable, the legal allowable amount of radiation to a human is based on a 35-year-old white man who eats a good diet from a Western European country. So that means the laws are also racist in this sense that they don't consider that the radiation impacts to women is much higher because our tissues are different than a man's, and then the impacts to children are even higher, multiple times higher, exponentially, especially for babies and the unborn. So if there's a pregnant woman who is going to be exposed to radiation, her unborn child is going to have the worst impact, and it's totally legal, basically, but there's no studies being done. We don't know how high-level waste will impact us. The stuff I was talking about is low-level radiation exposure over a long-term amount of time, but this high-level stuff is lethal if you are exposed to it unshielded, meaning if the waste somehow came out of the container, if there was an accident that some of it leaked and you were exposed to it, even in a short amount of time, it could have severe health implications. You could be, if you were so close to it for a short amount of time, if there was nothing between you and the waste, you could die, within, maybe an hour's time. So in a very short amount of time, if you were right next to it, and that doesn't happen because at the power plant, when they move the waste out of the reactor, all of that is done underwater. So the water shields the radiation. They do everything robotically at the power plant. They take the high-level waste out of the reactor, and then they transport it on site to store. So right now, all this stuff is being stored at the power plant, and the power plants have about 60 or so many years that they're licensed to hold the waste. So the waste can stay at the power plants right now because the license includes, decades of time for these companies to safely hold it and monitor it. So it doesn't need to be moved right now, but the companies don't want to pay to keep storing this. They want to get rid of it. So there's a lot of questions about the liability of this waste when it's transported. And so are we going to have to pay if there's an accident? If the state, wherever there's an accident, how much of the expense is on that state or the federal government? How much does the company have to pay? And, when they do, if they move it here, if this happens, then storing it for 120 years, is that company going to pay for that? And all these things, it's a little bit unknown right now, but we do know the companies, they don't want to pay for it anymore. So they're trying to put the cost on the government.
So Leona, I have a question. Since we're here, living like in the Permian Basin pretty much, where there's a lot of oil, we're aware that there's H2S, possibly around. What's the difference? I know there must be a big difference, but since the people here are used to, H2S, being around, do you think the people will be used to the fact that there could be radiation nearby?
I think that's a great question for your guest, because I live up here, and I know my people, the Navajo folks living near the power plants and things in the Four Corners, there was this, they did this photograph from space showing the methane plume above the Four Corners, and it was huge. And, we didn't know how bad it was. And so the thing about radiation is you cannot sense it with your human body. And I know Noel could talk about this because he does monitoring. You need a special device to measure radiation. So really, people will have no idea if there's anything, like coming out of, even like Urenco or WCS already has waste. You would have no idea how much of it is coming out without a Geiger counter, because your body, you can't sense it, like you can't taste it or smell it or see it or hear it. But it will hurt you, and people will have no idea how bad for several years, because the latency period for radiation exposure to the human body, it takes a while to have some impact. I mean, to an unborn baby, that's, it's immediate. It's different because the child is still developing. But for adults, we might not know until, there's an increase in cancer, like maybe 15 or 20 years down the road, if there's a lot of radiation leaks.
And I think that's one of the hardest thing for people to actually get into this stuff, or to even ask questions. If it's gonna, cause effects way in the future, people are not really paying attention to it until the problem arises. Then, they start asking all these questions. What happened? Why didn't we have a say in this? When in reality, we do have a say, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, that we do have a say in what's going to happen in all this. What is that we're supposed to do? I mean, I know we're talking about it now, but what other stuff is there available for the people to search up, or where do they have to go and ask about this?
Well, since the whole deal is consent-based, it's important that the public start to learn about it and start to speak up and be present at these public hearings. That's really the only chance we're going to have at this, is just community awareness.
Is there anybody backing you guys up with money to do anything? Pretty much nowadays, you got to have a little bit of money. And I don't think that there's much out there that's showing that this stuff is going on. I didn't even know about it at all. I know we were looking, trying to do a little research on it, and we couldn't find anything until...
A lot of it is grassroots activism, unfortunately. We're not like the industry where you can just have money funneled into things to support your cause.
What can be done to get people to know about this?
We've had donations. We've had a little bit of money donated. And since we started this group, the Alliance for Environmental Strategies, we are not like an official group. So we fall under another group that is a 501 501c3, which is a nonprofit environmental organization. It's Southwest Research and Information Center
Yes.
out of Albuquerque, and they take care of our funds. But at the same time, we've only had a little bit donated. But it's apparently, I don't know exactly who did it. We've had anonymous donations, and we've had a couple of other donors in the northern New Mexico area that understand the issue, and they know that this can't get off the ground without something.
Yeah, maybe a GoFundMe page for this
That would be very helpful.
something like that, so people can start donating money. I'm pretty sure as you guys go along with this, there's gonna be a lot more people that are gonna be interested and that are gonna want to donate. So it'll probably be something to try to do, right?
Yeah, and I've had the idea of like throwing a party. I mean, Hobbs likes to party, and that's really the only way to get people out. So
Yeah,
I mean,
to raise some awareness, because I was scrolling down Facebook just a while ago, and somebody shared something about that, and all we have is just the sharing. That's all we do is just share. But what can we do about this instead of just sharing it? I know we're doing this, and obviously we're gonna have to do a lot of throw this out as much places as we can, Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere, so that people know that this is a very serious thing here.
Unfortunately, it's an area where people kind of lack political power. People are too busy to pay attention to what's going on, or they think other people are going to carry that responsibility. It's kind of hard to get people to be active, but I mean, this is.
Can someone speak on the deadline that we have? I mean, how much time do we have to fight this before, that way that the public knows how much time they have to react?
Okay,
because this is a critical time.
Oh yeah.
Right now.
It is, definitely. Now, see, the thing is, the application for this nuclear waste dump, it's already been submitted and accepted by the NRC. This period we're using right now that started and it ends May 29th is a period where the public can make comments. Email or written comments can be submitted to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
So you're saying this is already approved?
The application has been approved and accepted.
Okay.
In other words,
No, it's not approved. It's just accepted.
it's been accepted, but it's been approved as far as being complete.
Okay.
Okay, it has to be complete, and they were missing.
Okay.
And you can also, if I understand this correct, you can go on the website and it's all there, the proposal, correct?
At the NRC website.
On the NRC website, okay, so that's a place that the public can go to find information about this proposal that Holtec is proposed
Go ahead,
in our
Leona.
community.
Go ahead, Leona.
I'm sorry, guys. Thank you, guys. So what Lorraine said about activism is very true. That everybody can get involved and do something, do organizing. One big thing is that she mentioned consent. So the United States, they made this bogus process called consent-based siting, meaning that they were not going to put the waste on a community that didn't want it. And so what happened is ELE, the Eddie Lee Energy Alliance, because they're applying, the government looks at this as consent. Because it's a local company, that company, when they applied, it's like the government thinking, oh, New Mexico wants it because this New Mexico company applied with Holtec. The thing is,
Sorry, you're cutting up.
that we support it. Support it. And so there's things people can do to show that we don't want it and that we don't consent, which is showing up to the meetings. And you can do this at the scoping meetings. You can send letters. But even after May 29th, people can still organize and get resolutions passed by the little towns, the communities, the counties. So if all of you raise your voice and talk to your elected officials and tell them you don't want it, that's the most important thing, I think, for them to know and then to pass resolutions against it.
Awesome. So for everyone out there listening and just sharing stuff, if I see a lot of people put little sad faces and then angry faces, but that angry face ain't gonna do nothing unless you say, what can I do about this? This is my city, this is my state, and it is gonna affect my family. So, I really do think people need to start taking this stuff more seriously. So, it is very important to raise awareness and do whatever it takes. How you're saying parties, shoot, let's do it.
Right.
It's important. The thing that made me realize how important of an issue this is when, it was discussed about it affecting a gene pool. This company wants to hold this stuff here for 120 years. Well, our ancestors are the ones that are going to have to deal with this, and that are going to be affected. They're the ones that are going to experience the chronic effects of this. So that's your kids, and so forth. That's
Future generations.
yes. I mean, we have to stand up and do what we can while we can.
Yeah.
And we need to realize that our elected officials do not act unless there's pressure on them. And they'll do what they have to do. And if people do not reach out and put that pressure on them, they will not do anything. And that's just common nature. But at the same time, we do have 30 legislators, senators from the state that are trying to slow down the process. And they've written letters that they need more time to protect communities instead of rushing. And the NRC is rushing it. And so therefore, our communities have very little information. And that's part of the environmental racism, is that they're not even bringing the information in English through the state. The NMED is very responsible for leaving us out of the conversation. And so what we do is we also respond to the state government and make, they have discriminating coordinators, and we write letters. And if we don't pressure them, they will not respond. Our elected officials are on our side, but also there's 7 officials here in the Hobbs and Carlsbad area, UNS, that are for it. 7 of them have come up in favor. And so that's important to note, because that's a minority. But they hold the megaphone. They hold the high dollars of the industry. So how do we put the pressure on those 7?
Right.
The others are responding well, and they have signed on to our letters. So I think that's what Leona says is correct. We just have to proactivate and stop the smiling faces and take another evolution to our
take
action.
another step. Right.
These people that are trying to pass this so fast, is there something for them out of this whole thing?
If you follow the money, you'll find that pretty fast.
Okay.
Specifically for a company that provides security for the facilities.
Okay.
And the
I'm gonna try to be
politics of
professional,
all
not
this,
name
if you
any
look at it, it says that their jobs trump our jobs. The stigma of bringing, dumping jobs and making our area the dumping grounds of America is enough to make a lot of industries turn away.
That's right.
And not come here, and include us moving away if we can, if whatever. A lot of these people that are for it have 2 or 3 homes. And so they generate their money here, and they can live elsewhere.
They can fly out to California.
Yeah, and that's the thing about all this waste that's coming is we don't benefit at all from the energy it produced. It's from other states, the other side of the country, and they're choosing New Mexico, where we live, where we raise our families, to come and dispose of it in ways that they're not even sure are 100% safe as they claim.
Right.
Well, they'll say it's not 100% safe. They'll admit that part. But if you look at it, what they're saying is they're valuing urban lives that in big cities over our lives. We're rural people. We don't benefit from the economic powerhouse of nuclear power. So how can they generate a profit and then come and bring it to us?
Yeah,
There's just something wrong about that.
They're saying that geologically, we have the perfect spot for the facility, and they're saying that since it's so isolated, the facility is going to be 32 miles away from us, about 30 from Carlsbad. Is that far enough?
No.
That's not isolated.
So let's talk.
not
Let's talk a little
isolated.
bit about the waste that's going to be there. What's all going to be inside? That?
Where is it? Where is it made at?
Yeah, it's made at nuclear reactors, all over the country.
Okay.
But I'm really not clear on the form of this waste. Can somebody, is it a liquid? I've heard a nuclear rod.
They have tools or like stuff.
No. The nuclear rods are basically described as being small, skinny tubes with uranium pellets inside. And these uranium pellets have already been irradiated. It's already spent. But they're so hot that they have to contain the waste. We call it waste because it's spent fuel.
Right.
And they can get several assemblies in one canister. And the canister is described to be stainless steel, a 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch thick. And then they are able to seal it shut. And then that canister will be put inside a transport canister. And the transport canister is supposed to be bigger, better, and what they call more robust. And the transportation canister will bring the other canister down the rail to the Holtec site if it was approved. So we call it waste, but it is actually they're assemblies of spent nuclear fuel that came out of reactors.
We got a picture.
Show that at the camera.
Yeah, you could just point it at the camera.
Yeah, that's just like a. That
And
right
the
there is
the
actually-
inner tube is the one that's 1/2 inch, is susceptible, in our opinion, to cracks and leakage.
And if you look at the description on the bottom, it gives the weights. Those weights exceed what the rail cars are rated for.
That's another.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes, and by the time a loaded canister gets on there, it's already overweight on the rail car.
Plus, you got to add stuff on it, right?
Well, the thing is,
The rating
we're
of the
assuming that
rail
they're
lines.
moving more than one.
They run
At a
down,
time.
exactly.
Right.
It's gonna be
So if
heavy.
they're putting 2 or 3 overweight canisters on one train, what's that do to the dynamics of train? The way that the train moves sways back and forth. That's
Yeah.
just normal. They're built that way.
Yeah.
But are rail lines safe? I can tell you that just south of Eunice, a couple years ago, a train just left the line. It just fell
Oh,
off.
just today, just this morning, in Monahans, they had a big train accident.
And
way.
did you
Huge,
know?
huge train accident.
Did you know that, since you bring Monahans up, we're talking about Holtec, but another facility, Waste Control Specialist, which is just outside of where I live in Eunice, that Monahans line would bring 4,000 trains right through Eunice. And it would travel from Monahans on up through Kermit, Jow, Eunice, and then go back into Texas. And we know, okay, there you see an accident there. We know the accident happened in 2015 that I took pictures of. Last year, a train just south of Jow derailed, and all they were carrying was frac sand. Those rail lines are not stable.
Right.
They're not in good shape, and that's just right here,
Right.
outside of our home.
It's the same way that the streets and roads and highways around here, they weren't built to take all the traffic that goes on with all the oil companies,
Right.
big trucks, and you can see the effects of it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing is going to happen on the rail systems. If you overload the weight system, it's going to compromise the structure. And that's going to be more money to fix and lead to a higher risk of possible.
The horror story
accidents.
was if one of those casts fell off or got punctured, and it would release the radiation. Who is going to be sent to pick up and clean up?
42 square miles.
Our first responders would be in so much danger.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame them if they didn't want to do it. Secondary is, what about the communities near there? Or what if it's in the middle of an urban community? What if Dallas, Fort Worth had that happen? Or San Antonio? where the military bases are. Those rail lines run right across there, which reminds me, there are communities already set to fight against this, including Bexar County, San Antonio. They passed a resolution saying they did not want nuclear waste going through their community. A big city like that has more on the ball than we do right here, where people are opening their arms to this. They're smarter than we are. If we don't get smartened up, we're going to get stuck with
Exactly.
this.
Yeah, there is an argument that the rail cars will be able to withstand a train wreck, but I don't.
Yeah, and that just
I'm
goes-
skeptical. I'm not trying to
Right.
find out.
But that'll just go hand in hand with other man-made things that were guaranteed, you know? I mean, there's just no guarantee.
No, human
Especially-
error is never accounted for.
Right, especially with something so new, you know, the technology that I understand that they're trying to use to store these rods is fairly new, you know, and they're not sure exactly, you know, how to, if I understand correctly, they're not sure how to open these containers again if they ever need to.
There's no way to inspect them once they're under the ground either.
Right, because it's such a volatile
So it's just like a
atmosphere.
trust base, you know, they're just gonna put them under the ground and just trust
And
that
just say
it's-
that it's super safe
I-
and it's never ever going to leak,
yeah.
ever.
Sad.
And they're going to cement them in, and it's going to be low level, correct? It's going to be
It's subterranean, they call it, because
Subterranean.
the very top of it will be, part of it, there's a cement cap over the top, and it's to allow ventilation. Now, if you've ever been to the site where this is going to be, it's right about nearly 1.5 to 2 miles, just the other side of the 360, R360 site. You see how the dirt blows that around.
Oh, yeah.
What if those areas get plugged up and there isn't adequate circulation of the air to keep it where it needs to be cooled down?
right.
A lot of different things can
Yeah,
happen.
high winds, there is a lot. Another area right in there is your water flooding potash mines, which cause more sinkholes. And that's going to be problems like the sinkhole they're worried about in Carlsbad.
Right.
Where they went and did injection wells, and the company that was responsible was able to walk away and leave the taxpayer to fund that. How's that affect our school systems? You know, do we favor the dumping jobs over the future of our children?
And I think that's what's happening here, right? They're sugarcoating it that this is going to bring a lot of jobs, this is going to bring a lot of this and that,
Exactly.
and just showing us just the nice thing about it at the beginning, but nobody's
No
actually
vision of responsibility.
nobody's gonna take
Yeah,
care
once
of
you
it.
start
towards the
promising
end.
people jobs, I mean, people are gonna go for it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's just a
And,
simple
and,
way.
the thing is about this is it's so new to even them that, you know, when you start something new, you learn through trial and error how to perfect that thing, you know, and there's going to be accidents, you know,
Yeah.
there's going to be mishaps, and we can't afford to,
One of those
To be
mistakes.
guinea
we-
pigs
exactly.
of this.
Yeah. Can't afford it.
Exactly. That's
Where is all this stuff stored at the present moment?
right now it's at the nuclear reactor facilities, what Leona was talking about. You know, right now they have license to hold it there. But once they have facilities and get approval from these states, you know.
And that's the safest route right now, is to keep it on site. They called it a Hobbs system, it's hardened on-site storage. After it goes through the cooling period, they put it in a hardened concrete situations where it's not being transported, so it's safe until they figure out where they're going to take it as a permanent facility, which they haven't even figured that part out.
So they're just voting us in?
Yeah, that's exactly. And then move it again. There's
Yeah.
issues that once
After
it gets here,
120 years.
then we're going to move it to another and continue threatening the rest of the nation.
So, whenever we get back from a quick break, I want to talk about, I guess, on the other side. Let's say, you know, we're on the other side of the coin and we're saying, you know, this waste needs to go somewhere. Where could it go? What is the solution to this? I guess they're rushing it, so for some reason it needs to be rushed. Hopefully it's not just money, but, you know, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about this.
Club La Sierra los invita a que no se pierdan noches de karaoke todos los jueves y todos los grandes eventos que solamente La Sierra Event Center les trae. Sigan escuchando Ricas Platicas.
We're back. This is our last little section. Leona was telling us something very important. Go ahead, Leona.
Well, not only is this not fair and we don't want it to come here, so New Mexico is getting dumped on, but we're also an experiment because the waste site, what they're planning to do is put 2 canisters on top of each other underground, and they've never done this before. If waste is stored on site, it might be underground or above ground, but they generally do not stack 2 canisters on top of each other. And so this is never been done, and we don't know how it's going to work. I mean, WIP, it's supposed to last 10,000 years, but already started leaking and had a accident within the first 20 years. So imagine what would happen if something failed with these 2 canisters stacked on top of each other. And Rose was talking about, the containers, they're thin-walled containers, and when they put it underground, there's no monitoring system that they have in place if there is a leak. And if there is something that happens, like water gets in the canister or maybe little animals, these canisters could start to corrode. And there's really no way that they have in their plans to take it out and deal with that. And so that's another really important thing that your listeners need to know is these things in the design, they're it's a lot of risk. And I would say, someone might think they're built to fail because, the company's cutting corners and doesn't have a very safe design. But, that's just a couple things I wanted to add.
Yeah, that's very intense stuff. So, do we have a location for where this is going to be at? Do we know, or is it just between Hobbs and New Mexico? I mean, Hobbs
There's
and
been some
Carlsbad.
real estate already designated.
Really?
Yeah, and agreed to by some county commissioners that have kind of authorized things before that the public doesn't even know. So those people need to be contacted and be asked what were they thinking, why don't they check with us? And it's just, I've checked with my local officials, and a lot of times it's just the plain ugly truth is they don't want our input. They think that they're going to leave it up to high science and technology and big dollars to solve it, and we don't need to. But you know what? We're a big majority of this population, and we need to start asking them the questions as to why they're leaving us out.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the first steps. Was a rancher selling the land for the facility to potentially be built on. So.
Could we all go over there and stand on the land and?
All those are good actions. Exactly. No, we
can organize something.
Yeah, I think we should show up with banners, and a lot of times if we don't say nothing, our own politicians will show up and do the ground digging ceremonies where they're out there celebrating
with
big bucks and success at our expense. Yeah, exactly. That's when we need to be there with our banners and say.
I drove past that site the other day because I've been traveling around a little bit. We've been doing a cask tour, promoting an inflatable cask. It's the approximate dimensions of what the real one would be, and we've been having press releases done, and we've done interviews with newspapers from everywhere. Anyway, the very interesting thing is that most people don't really even know what is going on. And when they see this colorful cask, it gets their attention. But when you read it, it says say no to radioactive waste. And so this is how people are first learning. We don't have a lot of exposure. So it's important that we get this out. And what I wanted to say is on this trip to Carlsbad, past the site, and again, it's right near the halfway bar. It's on the it's across the street from the halfway bar. up about a mile.
On the south side.
And it's got a sign that says something about Lee County Development or something. And so it's not a very big sign, but if you look, it's across the highway from where the Whip Road is. So the Whip Road is going to be on the west side. This facility is planned to be on the right side of the highway. It's and right now they're actually laying a pipeline across that property. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think we need any kind of crude oil or natural gas pipeline anywhere near radioactive waste. I can't imagine how that would increase the risk of this. So there's a lot of things going on. People need to pay attention.
Yeah.
All these oil field workers out there, pay attention. The potash miners out there, pay attention. They're coming right into our
working people.
territories there.
They're around it.
Yeah, and I don't mean to throw shade, but a lot of oil field workers, as soon as they say, we're going to start digging up the ground and tearing stuff up, they get all excited, So, I mean, this is not exciting, right?
No, it's not. It's deadly.
Yeah.
We're looking for a deadly way to raise money for the state of New Mexico and to make the people on the East Coast and the West Coast feel safer while we inherit their dangerous waste. I think we need to speak up and speak out very loud.
Yeah, I mean, I work in the oil and gas industry, and I mean, that's how I make my money.
Right.
If there's a potential threat to the industry, then nobody's going to be very excited.
Right, exactly.
Nobody's going to be making money here.
What are the major oil companies out there by that site? I think DCP is one.
I know that they just built like a new gas plant out there, but I don't know the name of the...
There's a lot of gas and oil.
There's a lot of
out
stuff
there.
popping up out there on that land.
There is some good news that they're starting to express concern, but they also need to start donating to the volunteer groups and get the voice up. Billboards, we need billboards and a higher profile campaign. I always say too, art in the community so we can educate our children. The power of art always brings people together. And so I do that in Artesia, and I have also stuff that is about the threat and letting this beast upon us, because that's what it is. It's a major beast that it poisons us, and people are in the park. The children are playing, and this thing is just ready to be released on us.
Right.
So there's so many ways that we can start. Just waking up people, and saying we're fighting for our lands and our children, and not be compliant anymore.
Yeah, even just showing up. I mean,
Yeah.
even just showing up does more than you think.
Yeah.
Show up to the meetings.
Maybe we should give the dates and times of the meetings,
Yeah.
okay? Now, the first meeting on April 25th is actually going to be in Rockville, Maryland, but they are going to have a webinar that you can sign on to and listen to see what they say. But more locally, on April 30th in Roswell at the, I guess at the Campus Union Building, room 110, at 48 University Boulevard. Hours are from 4 until 7. And then May 1st, they come to Hobbs, 7 to 10 at the Lee County Event Center. And then on May 3rd, they skip a day there, it will be in Carlsbad at the Eddy County Fire Service, 1400 Commerce Street. That's 7 to 10. And then anyway, if you can't go to any of those meetings, they would definitely take comments online at www.regulations.gov, and you need to at least put the docket number, which is NRC 2018-0052. And then there's a mailing address of, her name is May, M-A-Y, M-A, Office of Administration, Mail Stop, TWFN 7A60M. Isn't that government for you? It's the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Washington, D.C., 20555. So anyway, those were the immediate dates right now.
And these meetings, are these people like on the public side, on the community side, or are they for this to happen?
They're called the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Okay.
It says nothing about public,
Okay.
and they're not on our side.
Not
are
on
not
our
on our
side. They're
side.
bureaucratic.
That's right. They're strictly in it to, if it looks good, if it sounds good for that facility to get open or any facility, they'll approve it.
So what must we do at these meetings? Do we go in there and just with our good intentions and just listen, or do we?
Tomorrow, good question. Tomorrow is the 19th.
Yes.
So we're having an important meeting in Hobbs. We're going to have a sheet that is the first step you can take to sign on to a letter that goes to the NRC, and where you are no consent. You're not in favor of this. Okay. And also we would like you to come and sign aboard, so we have a phone number and your email, so as we have different actions coming up, we can get a hold of you so we can show up in numbers. And that's the way we run the program, because if you don't have the people there, they'll bring the employees from WIP and try to say, well, we're for it, and of course they're all getting paid a little bit of money on the side. Tomorrow also we're going to have a new design on our brand new t-shirts. You can come be a billboard, buy a t-shirt, support us, and then wear a t-shirt and buy one for your other half, and get other people to get involved.
Right, yeah.
And be strong-minded. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you buy a t-shirt, as soon as you go attend to one of these meetings, you went from being the problem to being the solution, because if you're just doing nothing, you're a part of the problem, because you're doing nothing. You're contributing to the fact that they're doing this.
Do y'all have a Facebook page already for this?
Holtec, H-A-L-T, Holtec, and then there's also one for
This one that
environmental.
we show, the nonuclearwaste.org, has a lot of material on there with Holtec and the WCS, because we can't support one and support the other. They're both negative to our well-being, our health. And so neither one is good. They're a little bit different, but the proposals are similar. It's high-level nuclear waste coming here from somewhere else, and we didn't do it. We did nothing.
Or benefit
To receive it.
It's important for people to know that if this facility is passed, that it's not going to be the end of it. WCS isn't going to be the end of it.
Right.
Our elected officials are already discussing potential for small modular reactors here. So nuclear corridor, energyplex, I mean, they have a vision for this place. So it's not going to end there. Once we let them in incrementally, it's going to continue and it's going to expand faster than we can keep up with.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably their first step, right? It's just their first step.
It's a bully, just like a bully. If you let them push you around, they're going to continue.
It is a bully.
So
But if you stand up,
Again, tomorrow, 6:30, the 19th, Thursday, meeting at Ranchers. Just come and listen. You don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to really know what's going on. Just come. Representation right now is what we need.
And if you have someone that's interested in what your shirt says, or direct them to this podcast, it'll be available on YouTube and iTunes and other. We'll get that information out before we close, and they can hear for themselves from people who know a little bit more. You don't have to know a lot about it to speak about it. Just bring awareness,
Right.
Yes.
I guarantee if you discuss this matter, if you discuss this matter with anybody, nobody's going to want this around,
Well, the people that do are the people that work in the industry, or the people that have financial interest invested into this. Go ahead, Leona.
Yeah, and this is, like Lorraine said, this is not the only thing. There's going to be another comment period during the draft EIS. So we'll need to get people at these meetings again. And they usually allow you, I think, like 3 minutes. So it's good if people come prepared. And our group up here, I got to get off the phone now because we have a group from Albuquerque, and we're in the middle of a meeting. And so we'll be seeing you guys down there. We will be at every single meeting. And so there'll be a group of us traveling, and then there's also going to be people who are fighting this issue from all over the country coming down. So you guys are not alone. We fought a uranium mine up by Gallup, and we stopped it. and we can do it. We just
Awesome.
need to do some work.
Thank
so I
you,
just want to
guys.
say thank you so much, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys down there.
Thank
Awesome.
you guys.
Thank you,
Bye,
Leona.
everybody. You guys are all badass. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks. Bye.
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 So again, May 1st, 7 p.m. at the Lee County Event Center. Please be there. It's the NRC meeting. That one is really important. If you can do anything, be there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So we're going to be putting this out all over Facebook. So hopefully, everyone who can hear this can really,
Share
take this
it.
seriously,
and-
share it,
and talk to your
comment,
people.
tag
Yeah. people,
people and make sure you go to these meetings. We can really have a voice to what is being done in our community.
Let's multiply,
Yeah.
in a
Right.
good positive
Right.
energy
and
sense.
Just remember, just being there. You don't have to know.
Right.
Just show them, hey, we don't want this here.
Yeah.
And see, let me kind of point something out. It's so important that these people are going to say, we don't need outsiders to tell us how to run our state or our county. And so to be very aware that they're going to make everyone look like they're outsiders. But this is the whole state of New Mexico that's
Yeah, this is
involved,
not
not
just-
just Lee County, not just Eddy County.
We're protecting
This
the
is the
state.
whole state, and plus, the rest of the nation is in danger
Exactly.
too.
Yeah.
That stuff traveling on our rail system makes it everyone's business.
Well, the wind blows around here, and like you said,
The wind is major.
the radiation
So-
travels through the winds.
What would be the solution to this? Because thinking in a state, way. Yeah, this is our state, so we don't want any of that stuff here. But thinking in
Alternatives.
thinking in the country perspective, I guess it sounds something reasonable to say what y'all were saying, that they want to take it out of these big rural areas and bring it more into these country areas. What would be the solution for the country to where would this stuff go?
The solution is a permanent repository.
Okay.
And the reason...
What is that?
A permanent repository is a permanent place, a permanent safe place. And we refer to it as being geologically and hydrologically safe, suitable.
Where there's no water,
No
it's
water.
in the granite. The technology hasn't been
over
developed.
here at WIP, have y'all ever been there?
Yes,
I haven't.
Okay.
I've been there. as a
Okay, I took a tour also. You go down there and literally it is just salt.
Right.
Salt. Is that really a good solution to store permanent waste? They're learning that it's not such a great solution, right?
And they can't retrieve it either. Once
No,
everything
those
goes
roots
wrong,
are
they're stuck with it
collapsing.
forever.
They're collapsing. The roots are coming down. So it's been brought up. Where is this place? This place actually does exist. It's called igneous rock. It's so hard and impenetrable that it would be a perfect place to put it. And it's found on the East Coast, very close to where the White House is.
There you go. That's what I was thinking.
So
that would be a great
that's
place under the White
no,
House.
really, but really, it's found that in the ground.
Where the decision
at a certain
makers gather.
point, before it hits, it's a certain place. It's so far down, but not so close to the mantle of the earth, where the heat of the earth is. You don't want to mess with that.
Well,
You don't want the heat to
if
get
it's
up
safe,
and
if it's
go
safe
roll.
for us, it should be safe for them, right?
Exactly.
Do we have that technology, Rose, yet?
But I think they raised a good point, because that sounds very expensive. It could go very, very down there.
They've tried it in New
and
Mexico, right?
They did.
In the north, in
Really?
Tucumcari, and the cattle ranchers organized.
Oh, yeah.
And we have good friends that are cattle ranchers and Republicans, and they're against it, and they were able to they were going to make major, large boreholes in cattle country. And they decided, not us, and they showed up at all the county commissions, and they stood up, and they were vocal, and they photographed, and they shamed their elected officials. But they got so organized, and they're helping us, and they're working
Awesome.
with us.
Awesome.
It can be stopped.
So-
This can be stopped.
Awesome. So anything else we'd like to say before we end this episode? We had a pretty good talk.
I want to say thank you to you guys, because you're the future, and
Awesome.
it makes me
Thank you.
very happy to see you activate in this way, because you're the connection, and we need more younger people to take interest education and in every shape and form, and read and inform yourselves, because the television is taking too much of our time. So put aside some good time to activate and to become part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I mean, this is a very important issue that it came up on Facebook, and I never had, no idea that we'd be talking about this, so it's been my pleasure to talk about
I
it.
appreciate you guys opening it up.
No, thank you.
Awesome.
We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.
Yeah,
Please show up.
Tomorrow night, Thursday.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good. Thank you everyone for listening to Ricas Platicas.
Yes, so.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That
guys.
was good.
Really.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. Burrito technology.